Hello and welcome back to another episode of Vikings Happy Hour, sponsored by Lake Monster Brewing and That's Badass Wood Art. Remember to use promo code CT Pocket for 20% off any one item at That's Badass Wood Art. Tonight, as you can see beneath us on the screen, I should have put you above us or made you a bigger screen, but Luke Braun, Locked On Vikings, literally the kid I copied off in math class, is here to join us on this fine Tuesday evening. How are you, Luke?
Pretty good, man. How's it going?
It's going. It's been a fun off season, I think, for all of us. Kind of get rid of the old
you guys got
regime.
scoops on here. You had a good off season on this show.
Oh, it's just getting started. We got a lot more down the pipe here with starting next week actually. So I'll release something here, give people a guest list. But yeah, it's been a fun off season, but I'm glad that we can get you on here to get your takes on, just the NFL offseason for the Vikings. What are your thoughts through, a week or so of the new league year?
I feel like
that's a loaded question.
I have less thoughts. I feel like I have less thoughts than everybody else. Like, I feel like I love the Murphy pick. I think that there's a couple of lower level signings that I thought they probably paid a little bit too much for, like Josh Oliver and maybe another guy. But everything else, it's like I don't know. Yeah, Alexander Madison's back. All right. Like Dean Lowry he's making just a guy money, neutral. Like, okay. So I feel like they're filling out a lot of depth with free agents, and just kind of, I think, trying to build more of their, like, the foundation of the roster the way they want it.
Yeah.
And transitioning from the roster they inherited to the roster they actually want to have. And I think the only real move that, like, moves the needle for me at all is Byron Murphy, which I'm a huge fan of, and everything else is kind of just whatever.
I'm surprised the Garrett Bradbury one didn't do it for you.
Yeah, the Garrett Bradbury one. Okay, so he was way cheaper than I thought, which is, I guess, good for the Vikings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Honestly, that has become so much more of a bit than an opinion. Like, I don't know what to do with it anymore. Because for like 3 years, nobody wanted to actually, like, evaluate Garrett Bradbury. It was bad PFF grade. We're just gonna kill him. We just need to, like, hang him up by the cross, and that's it. Like, and so I was like, all right, well, if we don't want to actually talk about this guy, whatever. He's my son, and he can do no wrong, and I'm just gonna make that the joke. But I don't. Yeah, it is fascinating. They have brought back the entire O line, depth, starters, everybody. No differences. Maybe they'll draft a guy and inject that and see if somebody else gets kicked off the team and doesn't make it. But, like, that's very interesting considering the way the season ended.
Yeah.
With Dexter Lawrence doing what he did in that playoff game, to just kind of say, well, we'll just take the entire group as is, bring her back. Everybody.
Plenty of time to change that at this point, though, right? Like, again, sure. I've been advocating, hey, if you're going to need to pay Ezra Cleveland as much as Ben Powers or, God forbid, Chris Lindstrom's making, please, let's just go ahead and trade him for the value that we can get for him, hopefully, this offseason.
We'll see. I don't think that happens this offseason. I would not be surprised to see Cleveland get the extension, but I think that's something you do, like, next February. But that's just, I don't know. I'm not Doogie. That's a guess.
Yeah. When he was on here, he was speculating more so about, like, wanting to maybe be paid tackle money and play tackle, since that was what he was drafted to do. But we don't need to talk about Ezra Cleveland.
That ship, I think, sailed 2.5 years ago.
So you're liking the Byron Murphy signing. Nothing on Davenport. Not any. Obviously, Dean Lowry probably isn't a needle mover for you.
No, Dean Lowry doesn't do anything. He's, I think, competing with Jonathan Bullard for either snaps or maybe even a roster spot in total. Yeah, the Davenport move feels like a lot for a reclamation project, because there's so much, like, there's health problems, there's there's a lot of reasons that Davenport didn't really make good on the potential that he had in New Orleans. And I feel like we're kind of just expecting a lot of that to go away, just like passively.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, is a lot of guaranteed money for him and stuff. So I think that they overpaid for him a little bit, but that's the thing about these offseason deals. It's like, but they did add a piece, and like, he does bring some amount of value. Is that value worth more or less than what they paid is always the question. And sure, I say it's kind of an overpay, but like, it'll still help.
Yeah. I mean, again, when he flashes like very bright. It's just whether those flashes become more consistent or not. Obviously, I was reading some of the comments here. Mateo didn't really like the Davenport move, but one of the other comments that Mateo makes here in the comments is talking about quarterbacks. And I was kind of interested because some of your running mates over on Locked On Vikings, Luke Inman, not Luke Braun, Luke Inman, and Sam were talking about the potential of Hendon Hooker, given the fact that who was it? Daniel Jeremiah put out a mock saying we are going to take him at 23. I'd love to just kind of hear your thoughts on that. We've heard, and if you guys haven't heard, listening in right now, you can go check out Locked On Today with Luke Inman and Sam Ekstrom. They were talking about this very topic, but I want to hear their running mate Luke Braun's take on this.
Yeah, well, I think we're destined to have this talk on the Minnesota Football Party eventually, whenever that comes down, because Inman has been singing Hooker's praises for forever, and I just watched him for the first time today. I saw that and I was like, okay, I guess I have to watch Hendon. I got to see what this dude's about. And I flipped on the tape and I saw him miss like 4 easy quick game passes like immediately. I was like, what's the point of this guy? Like it was like that slant that's behind him and stuff's late and stuff's off and his feet are off. And it's, there are too many brain melting misses on his tape for me. And I made sure to I watched the Alabama 5 touchdown game with all those big bombas to Jalen Hyatt. I get it. He has that go ball that I think is as consistent as you could ask it to be, with that deep go ball, sometimes even from the opposite hash. Love that. And when you do get him into a rhythm, that's awesome. It's so hard with that Tennessee offense because it's a really limited offense. There's a lot of half field reads in it. There's a lot of kind of spamming the same concept over and over and over. And it makes it really hard to kind of come up with an opinion about the quarterback, because when he gets into the NFL, he's going to be asked to do more than that offense asked him to do. And is he going to be able to do that? Or was Tennessee running it that way for a reason? Or was that reason because the rest of their team sucks? And that's the second thing about Tennessee, because, oh my God, the running backs can't block. The O-line can't block. All of the receivers are awful, except I guess Hyatt most of the time. Holy crap, he is not getting any help. So you have to kind of separate him from that and then see what you have left over. And I think what you have left over is a limited package for a guy who is like, his mechanics are pretty much set. Like he mechanically is going to, there is not really like with Anthony Richardson, you can see, oh, this is the thing that's wrong, that if you fix it, he'll get more accurate. He's 20, Hooker's 25. And everything that's going to be ironed out has been ironed out mechanically, and he's still missing all this. So it's like, okay, this feels like who he is. And we don't have really, we have a lot of reason to believe that there's not going to be much growth here. This is not a dude with a ceiling and potential that you hope that he realizes. This is who he is. And who he is to me is a guy who maybe competes for a backup job in the NFL. I'm not taking that before day 3.
I think that's valid. I mean, I think I'd feel comfortable taking him late day 2. But we obviously don't have a whole lot of draft capital as well. But you could argue as well that, some of this stuff, maybe a year behind Kirk Cousins, could help him in some facets.
It could help some, but not, I don't think him. I think he is who he is at this point.
Well, yeah, because he's also going to be then 26, turning 27.
He's KJ Osborne's. Like, there are people negotiating extensions right now that are his age.
I'm with you on the Hooker part. I know, Ryan, I think you're intrigued by him, but not so not sold on him.
Yeah, I mean, to that extent that you kind of said, maybe a late day 3, a third round type pick, maybe later if he's available, which I doubt he will be. Yeah, again, enough tools there to work with. Again, he's 25, so like Luke said, he's probably capping out near his potential, which again wasn't enough to win a Heisman, right? I mean, obviously he was in the running before that ACL tear, but I again, there's enough tools there, but again, mechanically, you look at some of the things that are happening. Mechanics actually aren't that bad, but it's just like why? So why is he as inaccurate as he has been in some of those games? It's kind of baffling to me, but again, I'm intrigued by the tools. But yeah, again, 25. I don't want what is it, Brendan Whedon? What was his name? Right. We don't need him on this team.
If I'm taking a toolsy swing, if I'm just saying, hey, this guy has all the tools in the world and we just have to see if he develops over time and, high risk, high reward, let's throw a 5th round pick out there. Give me the UCLA Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I'd much rather have him.
That's my
That guy's got tools.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, he's old too. I think he's like 23, 24. So he's kind of older too, but his tools supersede what Hendon Hooker's are.
And you can see, if I teach him X, he'll be able to do more stuff, and I don't really see that with Hooker. And with age in these couple of draft classes too, like I don't want to hold it like too hard over Hooker because these are the COVID kids. These kids are not usually when we see a kid that's 25 coming out of college, and we're going, well, why didn't he declare that for the draft earlier? Because he wasn't good enough to get drafted. So has he made this great improvement? And that's kind of the question that you ask about older prospects. But now it's why didn't he come out earlier? Because that was 2020. Who knew what was going to happen? So he went back to college because he missed his senior year because of COVID. Like that kind of makes sense to me. But I think with guys that are coming out 23, 24 because of the COVID stuff, I don't think that's necessarily the case for Hooker, but it is something that I want to be a little more forgiving of in these kind of couple years as we get these kids whose college resumes got interrupted.
Absolutely.
So I guess it's safe to say then we're all out on Hooker at 23 or 24.
Absolutely.
That's insanity to me. That's clickbait.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, speaking of clickbait, Lamar Jackson rumors have been swirling about the Vikings being a potential dark horse. And so I thought, who better to have on than Luke Braun to talk about this because
better. A lot of people probably.
Well, I'm just saying you can speak some truth to fans because I feel like if I know you based on listening to your pods and knowing you in a previous world, you're probably not on board with this from a roster construction point of view.
Okay. There's 2 different questions here, right? Is would I want this to happen? And man, come on, it'd be so fun. Like it
would be a blast to watch.
Will this happen? No. That's the actual reality. It's so funny that there's like a betting odds thing going around with the Vikings being like plus 550 to get Lamar Jackson. It's like 4th in the league. That's a trap. They're trying to get you to waste your money on them.
It works. People have done it.
I mean, Vegas makes money, right? But here's what. So Darren Wolfson just said that the interest is not real. He just said in a reply on his Twitter, like I don't know, an hour or 2 ago. So that there you have no, it's not happening. But also, you could have read the tea leaves here because the Vikings did that big restructure with Kirk Cousins. That means that if they traded him, which they would have to probably if they brought in Lamar Jackson, I mean, Cousins isn't going to compete with him, right? You're going to ship him off to the Colts or whatever. If they did that, that means that they basically don't save any money off of his contract. They would save $10 million. And the only way for that to not become a larger cap hit in 2023 would be to designate it a post-June trade. So to sign Lamar Jackson, you'd probably have to wait until you've already done that. And then you need to sign him to a $40 million deal and then give up 2 first-round picks. Which I don't even know with the exclusive tag, isn't the deadline for that like May 15th anyway? So you can't do it. Yeah. So you would have to have Lamar Jackson and Kirk Cousins' contracts both on the books at the same time for some period of time without going over the cap. you can't do that. That's too many things. So that just mathematically doesn't work out unless you're going to like cut players to do it and then re-sign them, replace them later afterwards.
Madden
like
franchise mode, man. Just
Madden it, like cut them, bring them back. I don't know. There is a fantasy to it. And before the restructure, you could have seen it, right? There was a world where you go, oh, okay, well, maybe they say, all right, we're going to bring in Lamar Jackson. Kirk, we're not interested in you anymore. Would you waive the no trade? Let's talk about it. I wouldn't see that as very likely, but you could kind of envision, all right, maybe they have that conversation. But when they did that restructure, they locked Kirk in. And so this is what fans need to hear. All right. Kirk Cousins is your quarterback for 2023. The Vikings have decided that decision is made. There's no going back on it now. When they did that restructure, they decided he is the quarterback for 2023, and they decided to leave themselves open to extend him if they strike out on a quarterback in the draft, because you can't guarantee that. Then you can come back and say, maybe we give you another year. Maybe we give you something longer. We really love this Anthony Richardson kid or whoever. We love this. And if we're going to try to go up and get him, but maybe that goes wrong, and we'll talk to you in May. That's where we're at with Kirk Cousins right now. Any fantasy where Kirk Cousins is not the starting quarterback in 2023, it's either him or things went real bad and it's Nick Mullins. I'm sorry, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, and the Lamar Jackson stuff, again, it sounds great in theory, but yeah, when you're talking 2 first-round picks plus 40-50 million,
yeah,
it's a lot. Like, I know some arguments were made today, like Hendon Hooker for a 23 first. Why wouldn't you just get Lamar for 2 first? Like, that's way better. He's MVP. He's only a year older than Hendon Hooker. All of that makes a lot of sense, but the one thing we're forgetting about is the fact that you also have to pay the guy 50 million, and that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of additional cost that you're incurring because for the Kirk haters, most of the argument is that he's too expensive and you can't put the cast that he needs around him, right? Because of the salary cap and stuff. Well, you're just turning around and paying a different guy that much money, so it doesn't even solve that problem. So you have to think that Lamar Jackson is better than Kirk Cousins, and I do by some margin, but that margin is not worth the insane additional costs that you incur. So I probably would not be for the move. That said, if they did it, if they found a way, that would be very fun. And he's only on a 1-year tag with the Ravens. So if he does come back, I don't know, maybe it doesn't work out another time. Maybe the Ravens don't want to tag him next year. Maybe the Vikings don't have a draft quarterback, and maybe in 2024 the stars align and we can do, like, I could see that being the case. But for 2023, you're watching Kirk Cousins again. Stop trying to like daydream your way out of it. It's happening. Come to grips with it.
Luke, you're echoing pretty much exactly what Brad Spielberger said when we had him on Friday to talk about cap in what they did with Kirk's contract. And yeah, he's going to be here in 2023. But let's talk future, because I personally think that Kwesi is up to something. I think he wants one of these quarterbacks, and I think it's
for sure.
And I see it with the void years. I think they're content eating void years these next couple of years because they believe that they will have a rookie quarterback on roster where money is kind of irrelevant because Kirk will be gone. It'll be a rookie quarterback. Do you feel the same way? Do you think that's where they're kind of headed this draft?
I think they're very much lining themselves up to try to get a quarterback. Yeah. And try to, right? There is no, this isn't Yoda. All right. There is there is not really, let's just go get Anthony Richardson. Right. Because maybe all these dudes are gone by pick 5.
Is that your guy, by the way? You've mentioned his name a couple of times.
I love Richardson. I think he has to land in a place that doesn't have to start him right away. I think he needs a year. Most people I think would agree with that, which that would work here. Right.
Because Kirk Cousins is the quarterback for 2023.
Yes. So that, right, like it kind of adds up, and that makes sense. And maybe he falls because he's too raw, and he had that really cool combine and everybody got real excited, but it'll have been 2 months since then. It kind of, the shine wears off as people think about it more. And this happens to teams too. That's my guy. I think the Vikings are really high on Will Levis too. O'Connell has all those buddies at Kentucky. There's even been some whisper about him being like a really, a good fit for O'Connell and the Vikings and stuff. So he could be the guy as well. I think if CJ Stroud and Bryce Young fall past pick 3, I would be surprised. So I'm not really considering them, but those are kind of your 4 names. And I think they're trying to line themselves up to get one of those guys. It's all an attempt though, right? You live in this uncertain world. And with the void years, I don't know if that needs to point to a greater thing, because it's just a very efficient thing to do with the way the cap is growing. Pushing money back just means, it's just easier to pay off a $9 million charge when the cap is 250 than when it's 225. So I think that's just Kwesi doing the Wall Street thing. He's just taking out interest-free loans, baby. He's trying to short inflation. He's just doing the thing,
Maybe that is. For me, I guess I thought more so that he wanted to get rid of void years and stop doing that. But everything he's done since I've made that comment has been the opposite.
Yeah, all the void year stuff is really small too. It's all.
Right.
I mean, it's not. We had Kirk on void year. Right now we have Kirk Cousins on huge void years, and there was that. But 2.5 mil per year on the Dalvin Tomlinson void thing. We don't have that as much. We have we're saving 1.5 mil here and there, and it's a little bit more nickely and dimey, which makes it that much easier to deal with when that bill comes due.
Absolutely. Final thing, just as we wrap up here. Do you have a free agency wish list for the remainder of the offseason? I mean, no wide receiver position has been addressed, although we've been linked to a couple. Mm-hmm. We can't really, Duke Shelley we could bring back. I guess that's probably the last guy impending that we could attempt to bring back that makes sense. But yeah, curious your thoughts there.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't love Duke Shelley, right? Hero of heroes. I do think that they probably need another corner, and another corner that they can justify as a starter.
Yes.
Which I would say with Duke Shelley, we'll call that debatable. But I think they should get another starter. Kind of sounds like they aren't gonna. Sounds like that kind of once they got Byron Murphy, they kind of backed off all the other corners they were talking to. I'm going mostly off of Doogie's reporting on that, but. So I don't know if they're gonna, but I kind of wish they would. I would love a wide receiver, but I really don't like any of the wide receivers out there. It's like Odell would be fun, but other than that, I don't know. Mecole Hardman doesn't do it for me. Like
DJ Chark?
Does he do better than KJ Osborne? I don't know if he does.
He provides a different element than KJ Osborne.
Yeah,
does.
I mean, I wouldn't dislike it. It would kind of be like Dean Lowry. Like, okay, we got another dude.
Sure.
I wouldn't mind another dude at wide receiver, though. I do think that room's way too thin right now. So yeah, bring in a warm body. That's fine. But none of the guys out there just really move that needle for me. So yeah, give me another corner you can argue can be a starter. Maybe that's Duke Shelley. Maybe you can go find somebody you feel a little better about out there. And then I feel like you can go into the draft.
Yeah.
There's also trades too. It's not just about who's out there unemployed.
That's true. That's true. Ryan, a couple of weeks ago was in on the Rashad Bateman hype to get him out of purgatory over there in Baltimore.
Reunite him with Lamar Jackson in 2024. Boom.
There you go.
You heard it here.
Yeah,
first.
I mean that would address the wide receiver problem, right? I think that potentially could be an avenue, or Elijah Moore again, but Elijah Moore and KJ Osborne are kind of redundant skill sets. So I don't know how much you'd want to explore that unless you're just not planning on moving forward with KJ Osborne after this year, which potentially could be a possibility as well. Rock Yassin, interesting. Did Sean Murphy Bunting?
Yeah, he's gone.
Did he end up signing?
Yeah, I forget who. It was just yesterday though.
Titans,
I think. Smacked my hand right on this table.
I know he was visiting somewhere, but I didn't.
I think he signed a 1-year deal with the Titans. Rock Yassin would be good. I know there's some corners out there that I would feel pretty good about. I would love for them to get one, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, it might be one of those things too, where they wait till after the draft.
For sure, because there will be. We now live in a world where there are free agents after the draft every year. It used to be that it was kind of everything was gone in 2 weeks. But I think certain changes to the CBA and certain changes to the way these markets play out. And then I think COVID did it a little bit too, where COVID made everything take a long time. And then people signed the same contracts that they were signing before the draft. And it was actually like for some of these older veteran players that want to, pick where they want to go, and they want to, figure out, like, really take their time after the draft actually works a little better for them. So I think we are kind of hitting this world where, okay, free agency opens, there's a flurry, and then it kind of all shakes itself out slowly in a trickle over the next few months. So just because, the team at the end of the first week of free agency is very much not the team going into week one.
Take us back to the lockdown year where the draft was before all of free agency. That was fun.
Was it?
Wasn't that the year that they went ponder and then they signed McNabb or traded for him?
The lockout year, 2011. Oh my God. Yeah. That was probably the single year I was paying the least attention to football because I was freshman year of college.
Well, you didn't miss much. So
yeah. Yeah. I looked up the score and I was like, oh, they lost again, I guess.
That was the one where they'd get out like by 3 possessions and they'd always blow it.
Yeah. In COVID, I rewatched that whole season, like in the dead of lockdown when nobody had anything to do. I rewatched the 2011 season because that was the one I missed. I was like, man, I can't imagine having Super Bowl aspirations and watching this. My God. Yeah. Donovan McNabb, that wide receiver core, the best one what was his name? Like Marcus Robinson or something.
I can't even remember who was back on that team.
Devin Aromashadu.
That is a name.
Aromashadu. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh man, what a time.
Well, that's all I got for you, Luke. I appreciate you hopping on. Is there anything that you are working on as you gear up to the NFL draft? Zone coverage, Locked On Vikings, Minnesota Football Party, anything?
Yep, you can find me on Locked On Vikings, Minnesota Football Party. You can find me on patreon.com/Luke Braun NFL, where I'm doing film breakdowns. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make all my quarterback ones free to watch, so everybody can watch them whether they've joined or not, although I'd love for you to join anyways. And then some of my cornerback stuff is for patrons only, although I have one on Byron Murphy as well, which is free for everybody. So go check that out.
Yes, and when this show is done, I will make sure to put that link in the description so you guys can go right to it and subscribe. For everybody watching, thank you for joining the show tonight. Thank you for firing up the comments. Like I said, we have a huge guest list coming up from now until the NFL draft, and it starts tonight kind of with Luke Braun. So keep coming back, like and subscribe, and we will have a ton more Vikings content for you in the coming weeks. But until next time, everybody, SKOL Vikings.